Hello, I'm Ariam, and welcome to my May 2025 TBR, to be read list. This is all the things that I'm hoping to be able to read in May. So let's get started with a book that I'm already in the middle of and that I started in April. Today it is May 1st. So that would be Jonathan Strange and Mr. Dorrell by Suzanne Clark. 410 pages through this, but this book is 1,006 pages. It's long. So I might DNF it. Actually, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I hope I don't DNF it. I really want to enjoy this. But I'm not such a big fan of longer books for reasons. So I do hope I like this. And enough to not DNF it. And now the reason I'm reading this, I nearly hit myself in the head with it, is that it was part of my books that I wanted to read for the Orilium readathon, which, if you don't know, it's a readathon run by Book Roast on YouTube, and you choose a character, and then there are oldies, and they go to Magic University, and there are all these careers, and for each career you take different classes, and each class gives you a different prompt. There are 2 semesters a year, one in April and one in September. So this is one of the ones I was reading for one of my characters. I have 2 characters who together take 3 are taking like 3 careers. I have one character who's doing 2 and one who's doing 1. So this was for one of my characters. Other books that I need to read for her to finish, which I haven't yet, are Passage West by Rishi Reddy and The Monster of Elendhaven by Jennifer Giesbrecht. And now let me tell you what all these books are about. So Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark is about it happens during the Napoleonic Wars in England, and basically in this world there used to be magic, but there isn't magic anymore. People are just studying it. Like theoretical physicists versus not actual physicists. You know what I mean. I forgot the word. But so these are theoretical magicians. And then there's this guy, Mr. Norrell, who has discovered again how to do magic. And then a good way through the book we get to Jonathan Strange too, who also learns how to do magic. This is not a plot-based book. It's not really a character-based book. It's just here's this world I created, and here's how I imagine the magic happening in it. Now, Passage West by Rishi Reddy it's a historical fiction about an Indian guy, I believe he's Sikh, who at the turn of the century, he is in the United States. I believe that he's from the East Coast and he goes to the West Coast to Washington to get away from someone. We don't know who. Now, I have a feeling this is not going to be exactly what the book is about, because I was looking at it today, and at the beginning, all I really saw was the very beginning I was looking at, and the beginning it has this whole list of characters telling us where they're from, how they got to this community in Washington, and then the first chapter happens in 1974, so it's not going to be exactly about that, but I think it's just going to be about this character's life. It's not going to be specifically about this one incident of how he's hiding in the West Coast. But I do think that it sounds good. I hope I like it, because I'm not always a person who likes books that take place over a really long amount of time. And the other book, The Monster of Elendhaven by Jennifer Giesbrecht, from what I can remember, it's about this girl who lives in a town where there are monsters. There's this one monster on the outside, and everybody's scared of it, and she's not, and she kind of goes to see it. I don't know. Okay, then for my other character, Ori, I have one book left for him, which is The Apple Tree Throne by Premi Muhammad. I do not remember what this is about. I read one book last year, at the end of last year, by Premi Muhammad, which I really, really, really liked, The Butcher of the Forest. And then I was like, I need to read everything by her. So, and it's her newest book, I believe. Okay. So in Orilium, there's a thing called The Adventure in Aeldia. Aeldia is a world where Orilium happens. And basically, your character has all these different prompts that you have to go through, 1 per month. And so I have 2 different characters for my characters who are doing the school. My characters now are Miriam and Rafaela, And again, I have 2 characters because that's who I am as a person. And so my prompts are, for each of them respectively, for Miriam is to read a book that is part of a series that is longer than 3 books. I'm going to read for that Balto of the Blue Dawn by Mary Pope Osborne, and illustrated, I believe, by Salvatore Murdoka, or maybe A.G. Fink, not sure. A.J. Ford, not sure, but because they switch in the middle. But this is a Magic Trios book, and I read a Magic Trios book every month. I try to. Unfortunately, I just discovered that this is the second to last book I have left. There is another special Magic Trios book that I'm not interested in reading. There are like 2 special ones that are they're not interesting to me. But, so the ones I actually want to read, I only have 2 left. So there's this one, Balto of the Blue Dawn, and another one. So Magic Trios books they're these early chapter books, introduction to reading, and they're about these 2 siblings, Jack and Annie, who find a magic treehouse in the woods. And they discover that when you point to a picture and say, I wish I could go there, it takes you to that time and place. And every 4 books is like a different adventure. So I believe these last books, each one is like a different thing. I'm not sure. It might still be the different adventure of them going on vacation, but obviously they're going to go meet Balto, who honestly I do not know much about, except that he was a famous dog, who I think was in Alaska and carried whiskey, so I guess I'm going to find out more about him. And for my second character, Rafaela, the prompt was to get a recommendation for someone. So I asked them to Orilium Discord for recommendations for either adult fantasy or YA realistic fiction. And someone recommended Burned by Ellen Hopkins, which is good because I've always been interested, since I was a teenager, I've been interested in reading something by Ellen Hopkins, but I never could choose what I was really interested in. And so I got out the audiobook about 2 hours into it now. I've been listening to it today. And this is about a girl who grows up Mormon, and she's from but her family's very dysfunctional. And she's a teenager. And she goes to public school that's not Mormon. And she's a teenager, and one of the things that comes along with being a teenager generally is discovering your sexuality. And she's straight, but she's feels that she doesn't really have anywhere to turn to for answers about why she's really feeling the things that she does and how that clashes with her upbringing of even your thoughts have to be pure. And she's like, but I can't really help the fact that looking at this guy makes me feel a little tingly and stuff. Is that wrong? And from the summary, and that's what I've read so far. From the summary, it says she's going to be sent to live with her aunt, and there's big drastic changes that are going to happen. So far, I'm enjoying it. I don't love the poetry, but I am listening to audiobooks, so it doesn't sound that much like poetry. It does sound like prose for the most part, so that's good. Okay, now, another reading challenge I do for myself is to read the Buzzword book, the Buzzword thing. So Buzzword Challenge is by Books and Lala on YouTube, and we have 2 prompts. You can combine them, but I was not able to combine them this time. So one is for something on the cover, and one is for a word. So this month, and it changes every month. So this month, the something on the cover was eyes, and they said they'd be prominent. So what I chose for that is Power of 3 by Diana Wynne Jones, because the cover is just eyes in the title. And this seems like a very classic Diana Wynne Jones story, something that she was really exploring later in her career, which is there are kids, they're in an island, something happens, they have to go and do it. They have to go and deal with it. I think this something has to do with getting back the magic and stuff. Classic Diana Wynne Jones. And then the word for this month is two. It could be T-O, it could be T-O-O. I chose T-O. For the train, the book I chose is The Train to Impossible Places. The Train to Impossible Places by P.G. Bell. This is younger middle grade. I don't know why we say middle grade. It's just this is aimed at 3rd, 4th graders, I think, and maybe even up to 5th graders, and it's about this girl who discovers this magic train that can go to all these kind of crazy places, and I think the book is mostly just her going to all these weird, fantastical places. Okay, another challenge I like to do for myself is to tackle a series. As you've seen, I like to tackle 2 series at a time. So I'm tackling the Magic Trio series, and the other series I'm tackling is the Shopaholic series. So I read some books of these in 8th grade when my mom was reading them, but she doesn't read series in order unless she really, really likes them. So there are some series I read and some I didn't, so I decided to start rereading the series, or reading it for the first time. So the book I'm up to is the 6th book, and this is Mini Shopaholic. So this series is by Sophie Kinsella, and it's about our main character. It's just a very silly little realistic fiction series. Our main character is Sophie Kinsella, and it's just about her life. There isn't much that I can say about it because Becky, our main character, did I say her name is Sophie Kinsella? Her name is Becky. She's kind of really a shallow person, but I really just like how Sophie Kinsella writes the relationships in this. Like, she really does dig into the relationships, even though this is just a silly little series. And so, yeah, and I have a very fun time reading the series. So Mini Shopaholic is a reread for me. This is about, so in the last book, Becky just had a baby, and this isn't spoilers, this is on the cover. And also, this is, I don't really think it's hard. It would be hard to spoil the series. And this is, I think her daughter is like a toddler in this one, and it's just about her learning to be a mom. And if I remember correctly, it's also about her like learning that to be a separate person from her daughter while being a mom. That her daughter doesn't have to be her, and she doesn't have to be her daughter. Okay, and the last book that I want to get to May is Hours of the Queen by Mercedes Lackey. This is another reread for me. I read this first in 8th grade as well. And this is the first publishing order, not chronologically, in the world of Valdemar. So this is a giant world with a ton of series, mostly trilogies, but not only. And so some of them are really interconnected, and you do need to read them to understand each other, and some of them are not. And the more interconnected ones were published earlier. So she first published the Hours of the Queen trilogy, then the Vignelle, or the Last Herald Maid trilogy, then the Winds trilogy, and then the Storms trilogy. Now, my library had the Arrows, Winds, and Changes trilogy, and I read all of them, but to understand the Winds and Storms trilogies, you need to read the Last Herald Maid trilogy, which is not a series that my library had. So I just recently read it these past few months. I also have a reading vlog for it. And so now I want to read the Hours trilogy and then the Winds and Storms trilogy. So, what is this book about? This book is about Talia. So she lives in this kind of cult, and she is very unhappy in it. Obviously, she was born there, she grew up there, and she lives in a country called Valdemar. But she doesn't really know much about it because she's always been very sheltered in this cult. And one day, but she's obsessed with this thing called heralds. Heralds are these people in Valdemar who are in charge of like riding around Valdemar and making sure everything's just, etc. And so she always like collects books and hides them to read. And then one day she finds the special horse of a herald, which she recognizes from all the books. And she gets on it, goes away with her, and her adventure starts. Anyways, those are all the books I hope to read in May. Thank you for watching.